Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Ibnu Annas with my student ID number 3220164 and from the class 337A01. And today I'm gonna do my midterm project about cross-cultural communication with my title is Language as the Key to Communication Across Culture and Business. So let's get started. So we have two kinds of topic and the case study. For the part one, we will talk about the topics, which is the first one is the relation between language and culture, ensuring business success through communication. In the second part, it's about solving the case study. The first one is culture barriers, cross-cultural communication for business, and non-verbal communication. So let's head to the part. The first part is the topics. So for the first one is the relation between language and the culture. So what what is meant to be to the language to be a relation between the language and the culture itself. So language is a kind of mirror to the way people think, act, and live as a society. So with the honesty and clarity of the human being, the culture can shape the how the language is used by in the daily interaction or maybe in daily conversation. So, for instance, in Indonesia, English is highly likely equality more than Japanese, while Japanese use san and sama to use an equality expressed respects. Often the Japanese in Indonesia, people often use the language to solve their expression, to solve their harmony. So while in the Western, for instance, in America, in the US, people are usually use language as a direct speaking to their opinions or their conversation. So this kinds of difference really come becomes from a style to cultural values itself. So that is why the relation between language and culture, such as in Indonesia, Japanese, and America, is often in different kinds of way to use the interaction. So, how would the language change the cultural value? For the first one, in order to understand the alternate worldviews that are common in a different language and culture, language learners must pay attention. Must pay attention to the voice that present in language and the other cultural subjects. And the second is when interacting with the individual from various backgrounds, such as in Japanese, Indonesia, and US, it's critical to be conscious of this kind of different. So when people from the different culture communicate their reaction, their conversation without understanding the meanings of the value of the cultural value itself, it's often um, not getting a honesty or clarity for the communication itself. So that's why cultural values or cultural awareness in language is really important to speech or doing a smooth communication. So the next one is ensuring business success through communication. What it means to be a business success through communication is an effective communication is the basis way of any successful business. It's developed cooperation, leadership, and tolerance. Now let's move to the how communication affect the business in every global business, especially in the globally. The cultural awareness plays a huge role. So if you don't understand how people from other countries or culture to how they communicate, we can really uh, face kind of conflict that people you're speaking to. So, and that's why communication is the backbone of to uh, all business activities and interaction, including the team collaboration, customer service, marketing, negotiation, and decision making. Next one. This is kind of example of the business cases. I get uh, two kinds of example. The first one, it's the same topics like in the technology. First one is Apple, and the second one is Nokia. Apple, the rise of Apple, which are The most successful brand or the most successful technology companies within its equality, product innovation, and customer care. So the second one, Nokia, it's a downfall of Nokia. Actually, Nokia had the opportunity to adapt like Apple did and rebuild itself, but it missed out on many opportunities and failed to notice the warning signs because of its satisfaction, fear of change, and maybe lack of communication. So this is the diagram or the chart that I've got in the journal from the Simic and Anjovic 2023. It's a total revenue of the Apple Inc. for the branding itself from the year 2016 until 2022. It looks on the chart itself. It gets a huge impact on the business technology. Now, the downfall of the Nokia. This is kind of diagram that I got from the journal from Fasciani, Solanki, and Vidani 2025. The diagram shows that top 7 companies market share from 2007 and 2010. You may look on the diagram itself from the 2007. Nokia had the biggest market share within the 63%, while in 2010, the Apple get the biggest market company shares with the 48%, but Nokia get a huge downfall from the 63% into 22%. Now, we already talked about the part one, so let's head it to the part two. It's about the case study. The first case study is about the cultural barriers. From the scenario, a team of employees from Indonesia, Germany, and Japan are working together on joint technology project. Within different culture, during the meetings, the German manager often gives a direct feedback. The Japanese members remain silent, and the Indonesian team tries to avoid confrontation. So, because of this kind of culture, several weeks later, the communication starts to break down. Then deadline are missed and misunderstood between each other. So, what kind of problem solving that we can use to this? By using the Gerd Hofstad dimension, Indonesia has a high power distance, collectives, high context, and less open disagreement. This shows a high power of culture, while in Germany, have a lower power distance. They kind of individualist, low context, and expect directness, like a direct feedback. While in Japan, collectivist, high uncertainty avoidance within the high context. So the Japanese prefer kinds of harmony and smooth communication, but a subtle feedback, which means that they have to think first before giving a direct feedback, just like what Germans want. And the second, by using the Edward T. Hall's context theory, the German has a low context culture, which is kinds of explicit communication, while Japan and Indonesia, they have a high context. It much to be implied in their daily conversation. Like we talk about the first part, maybe they sign a disagreement because what the Germans want by giving the expect directness, direct impact or direct feedback. Japan and Indonesia has subtle feedback, which means they think first before doing something. So, uh, the data itself and the kinds of explanation for the data itself that I got from Kaswara and Lukman 2022, Indonesian workers note that difficulty adapting to German work style and communication. And the other one from the Juniza 2023, a comparative study between the Japan and Indonesia has showed that the Japanese prefers to high context of communication, but of course with a subtle feedback. So the Japan itself most likely to indirect a disagreement itself by not giving a direct feedback, but they want us to understand. They want us to know that uh, the indirect disagreement what the Japanese do for us for the work here in Indonesia showed that they want us to get a high contextual communication before giving a direct feedback or direct impact. And the second one is explanation for the number two, the misinterpretation of silence. The German manager thinks that the text is maybe accepted, but the Japanese itself or Indonesian members hold unresolved issue, which means that there's some kinds of issue that uh, they do not have to resolve itself. So the Japanese and Indonesian members, why they hold the unresolved issues? Because they don't want to make it more, uh, even getting worse in the future itself. And the second one is an unequal participation. The decision without a full input, which leading to a poor ownership and misses deadline. So what it means to be the missed deadline and the poor ownership, because when the leader itself and the members have a different cultural values, like if the chairman become the leader of the team with Indonesian and Japanese, it can lead to a poor ownership and miss deadline because their cultural value have a big different impact. So what can I suggest for uh this kind of problem in the first part, which mean a culture barrier itself? So because of this difference, I suggest do a cultural awareness meeting, use structured feedback templates, and assign a cultural liaison roles. Which means to fix this, the team could use or hold the cross-cultural communication awareness and set a clear communication to norm like a written summaries, which means use a structured feedback template and appoint a culture mediators to help them assign a cultural liaison role to help them get an insight and bridge the gap between the culture value within the styles. So the second one is about the cross-cultural communication for business. This is scenario itself. An Indonesian furniture company, Tropical Craft, is expanding the European market. The company's marketing teams creates an advertisement emphasizing family values and community spirits. However, the campaign received little attention from European audience, who views the ads as overly emotional and lacking professionalism. So what can we analyze and providing some kind of data in this kind of topics? First one, the campaign reflected a collectivist and high context communication, typically with the Asian culture. And so, but the campaign didn't really works. The European audience are generally individualistic and low context. They preferring some kind of facts, the quality of the product and the professional tone, which mean they are Europeans was too was too emotional and unprofessional. Why? Because in a Western culture, people tend to value independence, like product quality, professionalism, and logic about the product. So the data that have been provided, study in the 2021 found that the European customer score higher in an individualism, it kind of it with 5.19, then the Asian customer 3.14, shaping a huge difference in the preference. So the reference that I've got is from Palm TPM 2022. So the next one is a two case study, a non-verbal communication scenario. During a business negotiation between a US company and an Arab client in Dubai, the American representative repeatedly checked his watch and maintains while personal distance. The Arab clients interpret this behavior as impatient and disrespect. leading to a tense atmosphere and failed negotiation. So the first one I identify the nonverbal issues. It's called the chronemics or time perception. An American view time as linear and value punctuality. Checking the watch, which means it's a professionalism. But in the Arabs, which mean view time as a relational. Checking the watch, which mean impatient. So the second part is proxemics or a personal space. In the US, they prefer a wide distance, which means I am independently. While in the Arab, they prefer a close distance, a trust, a warm, a customer, like a customer satisfaction, some kind of that. And the last is kinesics. It's mean of body language. The more minimal gesture may signal a coldness in Arab context. Okay, so what the result that I'm finding about this kind of case study? So the research shows that the cultural background significantly affects the personal space perception. Like in the Westerner, in Americans, they often to keep the large interpersonal space, interpersonal or interpersonal distance, while in the Middle Eastern cultures favor the closer proximity, such as in the like suggestion before, prefer the close distance and checking the watch, which means it's an impatient. So that's why Middle Eastern culture favor closer proximity for warmth and respect to getting their trust, to getting their work. So a study on the non-verbal behavior found that the chronomics and proxemics, which I've mentioned before in the identify non-verbal issue, cause a major misunderstanding in a global business context. The study that I found in the Abbott et al. 2023. So the next one is how do cultural influence in the strategy itself? First one, an American style, which they have a slang like L or some kind of words with time is money, which mean they respect the time, which mean they respect the money too. So that's why efficiency means a respect in American style. While Arab style means that a relationship before business, which means that they want to get a trust, to get a warmth. That's why passion becomes a respect in Arab style. So misreading this kind of signal can harm a trust, support, or maybe a negotiation success because of their different kinds of culture, values, some kind of culture influences. And so on, what kind of strategy that we can use to solve this kind of problem in the case study 3 with nonverbal communication? First one is to conduct the intercultural communication workshop before the negotiation. We have to get the customer patient, get the customer respect, trust, and warmth, so they can buy some kind of our product and the interest in our ads. And the second one is to observe the local nonverbal norms or avoid watch checking or maybe achieve a closer proximity. If you are in Arab, avoid watch checking means that you are being patient. You want to get the trust, you want to get the warm. While in America, if you checking your watch, it means that you are professional. You respect the time because time is money. You respect the time, you respect the money too. And the last one is build the report first, which means some kinds of value that you get to discuss the business details before it getting more complex. So uh the last one within the third one has the same meaning, which means that they have to workshop before the negotiation and build rapport first. they have to get the trust and warmth first before making some kinds of app to get their intention. So these kinds of my reference that I have found to support my midterm project. There are 10. So I think that's the last for my midterm project presentation about the language as the bridge to the culture and business company. So I think that's the end of my presentation. I hope this can solve the problem about the part one and part two, the topics and the case study, the three case study. Thank you so much for listening. If I hope that this talk get a clearer picture, or maybe you guys can get a image on how language can really become a key for a successful in a business or maybe in cultural value to maintain the communication access between different values. So if there's any kinds of mistakes, I beg you my apologize. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.